It was quite exciting.
Nicole, Lisa, have you guys gotten your
Oh my gosh.
No, they
Just
One thing at a time. One
yeah,
accoutrement.
you can't get it.
I can't believe how fast it was. Okay, so we're good? Okay, that's fine. So I'm gonna go ahead and call the meeting to order. So Sarah, it is 5:01. And I need a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Brian? Nicole? All in favor? Aye. And before we get started, even though we have no one in the audience, we have one person, but you're presenting. I wanted to do a quick reminder if anyone is watching at home or watches it at a later date. We are doing a few changes with our schedule, and we're going to be doing some of our workshops right before the business meeting. So that is going to be a little bit of a difference. And I also wanted to kind of clarify the difference between workshops and business board meetings. So the first thing we're doing tonight is a workshop, and this is an opportunity for the board to learn about things happening in the district, have discussions, share ideas, and listen to just a variety of folks across the district and sometimes from outside the district. So we might be learning about curriculum, we might be talking about the code of conduct, but it is a time for us to process and learn. And we will have a break after that, and then we'll move on to our business board meeting, which is what we have typically done on Tuesday nights, but we will be doing that after our workshops. And during that meeting, that is when we will have the opportunity for public comment at the beginning. So it will be then, just like it normally is. Don't think we have anyone signed up tonight, but in the future, we welcome people to come and publicly comment. And just one other reminder with the board business meeting, which I know can be a little tricky for folks. It is a meeting in public for the board. As much as we would like to, field questions from the audience, unfortunately, that is not what a board business meeting is about. So we have it in public so people can hear. But there's also a lot of things that we discuss at workshops that might show up in that business board meeting. So that's why we wanted to share what that looks like. And both will be streamed moving forward so that people can see what we talk about, what we learn about. And when we go through and we vote for many of the items on our agenda, you'll have a better idea of what we've heard and how we came to those decisions. It's not just us voting yes or no in real time. It's a lot of prep, a lot of research, a lot of reading and talking as a team as well. So that's my spiel. Did I forget anything?
I just wanted to point out that these meetings, the workshops, have been happening always, but now we're actually broadcasting them too to make it even easier for people. People are always welcome to attend, but now it's easier for people to watch it later or watch it from home. So I just appreciate that move in that direction.
Thanks. And I wasn't sure if I had to announce this because it's a workshop, but if people are here, mainly it's just people who work in the district, the fire exits are in the back of the room. So, or you can also exit to the left of myself, but I'll have to say that again when we have the next part of our meeting. So, okay, anybody else? Nope, okay. So we are going to move on to our workshop topics, and this is where we'll be discussing. So the first thing on the list here, and again, if you're at home, you can find this in board docs. The agendas are there, and you can follow along for your viewing pleasure. So the first thing we have on here is the district goals, and you can see it is in public comment, but we did work on this during our last workshop. So the vision is also there and the mission, and we're going to talk about it and just see if we're in a good place to move forward for the year with all of those things. So I guess I'm opening it up for comments, thoughts. So it's not just me talking.
love it. I think it came out great, and I think we're in a good place to start the year with a strong direction.
If I have punctuation things, is that something I should just email later, or where are we in
If
that
you have
process?
some grammar pieces, just coordinate with
Okay.
Lindsay Reddick,
Okay,
and she'll make sure that she processes those with you.
thanks.
And I think last time we had the workshop, I did mention that we didn't make any enormous changes. We just did a little bit of updating because this is, our vision, and we are hoping that it connects, and it should, with the strategic plan, which we just kicked off. So we didn't want to make any huge adjustments to stick with that.
Just for clarity's sake, Erica, the district goals, vision, and mission, those are district vision, district mission, and the statement of core beliefs is the board. That is our specific mission statement, core statement, so to speak.
All of these statements provide clarity. They help us build budgets, tell our stories, and we try to accentuate them as we move through the year. So, again, there was a time when this wasn't the case, so we've been consistently able to do this, so I appreciate the clarity, and I know our staff does too. And this will be, if so.
I was just going
Yep, go for it.
yeah. So if you stay tuned with us for many hours, at the business board meeting, we will be approving this. So we just wanted to make sure that everybody was on the same page, clarify, and then when we move into the board meeting later, this will be approved. And again, it's available in board docs, and I believe it is in multiple other places that will be shared.
I just want to put out there, just by the nature of getting our work into publishers and printers, there's a little lag between what is going to be live versus what we put in the newsletter. So we'll be updating on our website and everything going forward, but the commentator will have, the previous information.
And I'm just going to plug the Welcome Back to School guide that came out, which again, like Brett said, it just popped into my head. You probably, if you're a parent in the community, you would have gotten an email from Parent Square, and it is posted in there, but it will also, as Brett said, be coming out, but sometimes there's a delay with what we have online live and what gets mailed home. So that just popped in my head. Okay, so any other comments before we moved on to exciting things? Okay, so now we will move on to an update on day 187. I'm going to pass it over.
So there's a few items here that I think it's important that the board understands how we're targeting our staff development as we start the school year. There'll be continuous themes so we can reinforce our expectations relative to our district priorities, but it's all in the name of student achievement. Everything that you see here is striving to build capacity in our staff. Bennett, yeah, I know, it's exciting. I know. And we're gonna have Lisa and Dr. T to come forward and talk a little bit about things that our staff are engaging in, this concept of the learning paths. Again, that's ongoing professional learning, and Tanya will be explaining that. And a culture of coaching, which is something that we're excited to continue to develop with our staff, and how it promotes capacity with our staff and geared towards student achievement. So without further ado.
All right. Thank you, Superintendent Provenzano. So we are a learning organization, both for our students and for our staff. And this summer, throughout the summer, Day 187, which is a little bit of a misleading name because it happens multiple times over the summer. It actually happens 10 times in half days. We had two pieces of learning that happened in those half days. Every member of FEA, along with our admin staff, came to the trainings as well, went to two different sessions. One of them is about supporting and managing today's learner. And so you'll find in there just a sample of what the staff went through and were led through with some of our experts that we have here, our behavior management specialists and Deb Miles' team. Brett, if you don't mind just clicking forward, I'll just go through the learning intentions and then the learning targets, and then you can spend some more time in that if you choose or ask any questions. So you can see these learning targets here. We're going to learn about evidence-based theories, about why behavior happens, where it starts and the purpose, our personal beliefs, because that influences our reaction to behaviors, right? We'll reflect on evidence-based strategies to proactively set up classrooms, preview de-escalation techniques, and then reflect on our own emotions and experiences that impact kids. And we'll just click through just a couple more slides, but if you don't mind. So we know that when students have adverse childhood experiences, that affects learning. And there's a threshold for that. If it's more than 3 adverse childhood experiences, you really start to see an impact in learning. And then you can also have an impact in your life later on. And so it's important that we address those. We also know that behavior happens for a reason. Nothing is just because. And we need to make sure that we understand the reason so we can get to the root cause of understanding it so that we can address it. And that's what that last bullet speaks to. And then just one more slide. It's really about prevention in tier 1, the way you set up your classroom. And so I won't go through all of these, but if anybody has ever been a classroom teacher, you really know that setting up those routines in the beginning, your expectations in the beginning, and the consistency of those expectations are really crucial for behavior management in your classroom. So it's just a flavor of one half of day 187. If you don't mind exiting out of that, Brett. And then we'll go back to MTSS, if you don't mind hitting that MTSS. We are on a wonderful MTSS journey, working with a consultant and as well as hiring. Our director of MTSS, Lisa Benson, is here as well. Our admin team had a deep dive into MTSS as well as our staff over the summer. And this is just the agenda that happened for day 187. So you'll see here, it's a 3-hour session. And Brett, if you don't mind clicking into, scroll down just a little bit, the slide deck. And I'll just give you just a brief overview again, if that's okay. So again, as I said, we brought in consultants from Branching Minds to lead these sessions. We did an elementary focus and a secondary focus. We did that for the behavior as well. Things look different in K-5 than they do in 6-12. And so you'll see that we just did some overviews. Roll down again for learning intentions. So the staff learned about the components of MTSS. They understood about efficiency and equity and effectiveness. We all work really, really hard, and we need to do that in a more efficient and effective way so we can better support our students and be healthier as adults. And then we talked about best practices with MTSS. And so that was just an overview for our staff. That's a journey we're going to be on for probably 5 years. It's our work.
The big question always is with an organization of 500 professional staff, over 500, how do you share this information in a way that's consistent, in a way that gets everybody, on the same page and reinforces our expectations in our investments? When we talk about what we've done with MTSS, there's a lot of investment in that. There needs to be a consistent framework that needs to occur in all of our buildings. We talk about what happens in the classroom, what are the moves that you can make in the classroom. They're high yield, research-based best practices relative to social, emotional, and academic needs. Everyone's getting that.
Yep.
And when we go into our evaluation processes, which Dr. T is going to talk about, we're going to be looking for those threads that was just shared. So I just wanted to highlight what the priorities were relative to the professional learning that we've been able to take advantage of this summer.
Does anybody have any
targeted?
Anybody have any questions on that, specifically day 187 sessions? All right, well, that's not the end of our learning as an organization. So last year, we approved the professional learning paths as part of the FEA contract. And we got some feedback, and we've taken that feedback and adapted and adjusted. So this year specifically, we're going to be focusing, we have an elementary strand for PL path and a secondary strand for PL path. And in those paths, we are going to be focusing on tier 1 best practices. That includes behavior management. So we're not going to do day 187 and walk away. We're going to revisit throughout the year. And it also includes best practice in teaching. And this year we're focusing on discourse.
When we say tier 1,
Tier 1 is what everybody gets. in every classroom, every day. So Brett, if you don't mind just clicking into the samples. So I pulled up a sample for you just so you can kind of see the flow. So here's a sample from one of the elementary classrooms. So creating conditions for discourse. You'll see there's an intro, there's a learning target. I can create classroom conditions that support student discourse. And then every single learning path follows this similar flow, which is you read something, and in this one it's what are the conditions. So scroll down, we're not going to read through all of those right now. You watch something, and there's a video link that's appropriate to the grade levels that we're talking about. And then you do something, there's a reflection piece. And those live in Google Classrooms that live in each building, okay? So that's the
Tanya,
sample
how-
for elementary. I'm sorry.
How, like, how long would this take?
10 to 15 minutes.
So it's pretty short?
Yep, to complete the activities, read, watch, reflect, about 15 minutes. And then what we hope and anticipate is that then the practice happens in the classrooms, right? And so the learning takes about 15 minutes, that's right. And then it's revisited at faculty meetings. It's in our walkthroughs, that's what we're looking for and giving feedback for. So it's not, again, we know that professional learning needs to be ongoing, it needs to be practiced, and it needs to be discussed as adult learners. And so that is our method to make sure it sticks.
And so when working with teachers, what kind of feedback have you had on these? Because I mean, I know we don't want to be creating more work. This looks like something that could be incorporated into their classroom and their day-to-day.
Yep, you can do it whenever it's convenient for you. We give an end date at the end of the month, so they're released at the beginning of the month. You have all the way to the end of the month to complete those. And then, like I said, you can do it when the Bills are winning. You can pull out your learning path. I mean, honestly, you can do it whenever it's convenient for you. You could decide to do it as a grade level team together and have discourse. It's up to you.
And I think it's the ideas that are, that permeating our organization and how we're talking about it in our staff meetings, in our one-to-one coaching meetings that we have with our staff, pre-observations, post-observations. We can bring it back to multiple different areas, and I think that's something that we've done in the past couple of years, and we're getting it cleaner as we move along. The administrators, again, are spending time developing their capacity in this work so they know how to put their eyes on this and ask the right questions. And it's really not about being punitive. It's not and I got you. These are high yield strategies that are directly related to what happens in the classroom. Now, how do you know it's successful? Well, we have those measures of progress that we've outlined in the strategic plan. So as we look at reading data, math data, or other AP, other outcomes that we look at throughout the year, we're going to be able to see this throughout time, because it's going to the teaching should result and transfer into the assessing for learning.
And we chose discourse for this year. Last year we focused on learning targets. We chose discourse for this year. We know that when students are given the opportunity to talk, to make meaning of their learning, that it sticks, that they understand it at a deeper level. It's it's a high yield strategy that gives you more return on your investment. So that's one of the reasons we picked that. And Brett, if you don't mind going back to the PL Path document, just a note, right? This is a contractual obligation for FEA, and I will add that we do this learning with all of the admin team prior in that same month. So admin gets this learning, and teachers get this learning. And we're also opening it up this year so paraprofessionals, if they should choose to, can also get this learning. And we had some paraprofessionals and support staff that asked for this last year, which was wonderful.
With our administrative team, if you may or may not be aware, we have monthly opportunities. We have 2 shots each month, and we really try to align the learning that occurs during leadership cabinet and our elementary and secondary cabinets to this work.
Yep.
So.
And I think I have one more thing to talk about, and this is where I might invite my friend Lisa to chime in, and then my other friends on the board who have been part of this UBK visioning. So we're so excited. We had staff orientation this morning for UBK, led by Lisa Benson and Kelly Weissar. Oh, I'm sorry, that's not UBK.
Why don't you stay on that, and I'll
I
just
can
go
stay
back
on
to
UBK.
that.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Sorry, I skipped my favorite one. But this one's great too. I don't have favorites. What am I talking about? Everybody wins. Okay, so in UBK, we are growing our program. And as we've grown our program, we've also recognized that we need to make sure we define what our program is going to grow into, right? And so that's a good problem to have right now. And this was brought up at last week's workshop and then board business meeting to come up with a mission and vision statement for UBK. And so we put together this document. We were given a charge. We pulled a bunch of mission and vision and philosophy statements from across, you can stay up to the top, Brett, from across the country and also locally where people are doing things well. We pulled guidance from New York State, including regulations and standards. And then we asked for input from the staff. If you could click on that blue one that says input from FCSD staff, that'll take us to a bookmark, and then just the bookmark, yep. That'll take us to a bookmark where Lindsay Rettig put out a thought exchange. Thanks, Lindsay, for your work on that. Whoa.
No,
What's happening?
it's crazy.
Okay, so we put out 2 thought exchanges based on a recommendation from the board to gather input. One went to our staff that receives UPK students, including our OT, PT, speech, behavior specialists, all the people involved in those little people's lives. And we asked the question, we're thinking about doing this, what else should we prioritize? And it's summer, so we're not surprised, but we've had 13 respondents to date. And I just pulled a sample of one of the things that got a lot of likes and agreement, which was we want children to develop a love of school. Wonderful. So we used that input, and then we did the same thing for our families of UPK students. And we asked them, we said, this is what we're planning to do. What else should we prioritize to meet the needs of your child? And we've had 60 respondents from our families. And here's 2 samples from their response: to keep all our kids safe and to socialize and make friends. Wonderful. So as a result of that, all the other documents that I talked about, we had a meeting today with 2 members from the Board of Education.
Definitely a group of overachievers.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we should just, what else do you need done? Because in a few hours, we were able to come up with a lovely draft statement. If you could go to that, Brett, scroll down. Yep, just keep, there we go. Here's our draft mission and vision statement.
This is hot off the presses. What time?
We finished that at what, like 2:15? Yeah, today. Like I said, is there anything else you need accomplished? Because we actually, Lisa Christensen might need a break. She's been on a roll here. But here's the draft vision and mission, and we'll spend more time on this, I think, in the future, Brett, but we want the board to be able to spend some time in it and dig into it a little bit. Wordsmith, add a comma here or there. No, really, make sure it reflects. And I would invite Mary Caitlin and Lisa to jump in.
Parallel. That's big.
The one thing I would just name is that we went through and ordered the bullets, not necessarily on what's most important, but we wanted people to be able to understand exactly what to expect in a UPK classroom. And we started off intentionally with play. We are focused on play and that the understanding that children learn best through playing. Then we talked about safety. You saw that reflected in the thought exchange. And then we talked about the priority and the need for our caregivers to be actively involved.
And to
Yeah, go
reflect
ahead.
that caregiver role right in the first part of the mission, and this was Kelly Weishar really highlighted it, recognizing that caregivers are their child's first and primary teacher. Because I mean, speaking from right now, I'm living it. When you're bringing your little person into this program, you're like, wait, I want to be your partner. I've been working with this kiddo for so long, and we know how important that is. So that starts it right off the bat in that partnership between families and the district.
Yeah. And then we talk about social emotional skills, and then we get to what you might think school is about, right? Literacy and numeracy, and so much more. And it really is just building that foundation so that kids are ready to love school and engage in school, and that families feel and are really valued as connected partners.
Tanya,
Yeah, please, Lisa.
I'd add on that point with all of the other things that you'd expect
That's right.
for you to we're not over focusing on academic.
Yeah, UBK, because we receive state funding, has a lot of oversight from New York State. We're a public institution, and so is our UPK programming, and so we've got to make sure we rely on those state standards and guidance.
great
yeah.
with that. She has a mastery of those regulations.
Kelly
It was
Weissar
wonderful.
has carried the ball of UPK expertly, and really connected with families, with our staff, and we're really looking forward to inviting them into orientation. Is it next week, Wednesday? I don't know. I don't want to misspeak. If you're coming, you know, because you got an invite. But thank you for trusting us with your smallest learners, and we're really excited to see where we head with this.
And that was my question. Are you going to be able to share this, do you think, with the families that have students coming?
Brett?
I would say, once the board feels comfortable and says, hey, why don't you let the stakeholders look at it? Just give me the go-ahead and we'll get it out. We have email contacts. We obviously have our internal team. So I'll wait to hear from the board or, of course, you to let me know when we can do that.
One thing we had talked about in the meeting is, do we want to kick this back again to some of the staff as they're coming in and have them take a look at it, or do we feel like it's in a pretty good, like,
And one of the
I would recommend,
yeah.
once the board feels comfortable, like as collectively you guys make that decision, and just give me the nod, and they'll have an opportunity to put their eyes on. I know Dr. T is great at trying to get feedback using Google Docs or other forms, just so people can dot I's, cross T's, and put commas, Oxfords, and all those things.
The one thing I would add is that in looking at this now, we were trying to be, we were trying to make sure that we weren't using too much ed speak, but I think we may have at times, and so maybe there needs to be also a definitions page that goes with what we mean by some
You
of these
love
pieces.
definition
I
pages.
love definitions. We've got to know what we're talking about. Otherwise, we're going to be having two different arguments about the same exact thing. So I do think there might be a place to talk about what that means. That would be a recommendation I would put back to our group. We've got time. I mean, we can do it. Great. So that's UPK. I have one more piece. Ready?
Oh, yeah, I mean.
Any comments or
yeah.
thoughts so far? I know this is hot off the presses.
I can't believe how fast.
Do you? Go for it.
I'm just trying to process it myself, sorry. No, and there's other things, sorry, because start off with day 187
Go
and
for
then
it.
professional development. I'm not sure where to start, so I maybe just let you finish through everything and then.
Well, you know,
However you want.
another place, since this is a new format, which I think is a great way to streamline, if there are thoughts that for some reason, because sometimes you walk away, I know that there's a section in the board meeting where the board can reflect on some things and maybe tie some pieces back to. So I don't want to put any pressure on the board, because this is, like you said, it's all coming at you. But that would be an opportunity too.
Yeah, no, and I really appreciate, Eric, your changing our workshops and things in a single night. Can't tell you how much I love that. And other things, and some of the things we're talking about, this is getting away from it right real quick. Those our workshop of this month or in the future will help us prepare for the next one. So we're not going from this workshop and then voting later tonight. Like for this is all new.
Right.
And trying to process it. If I have to vote on it tonight, it's like, okay, have I had enough time or
yeah.
whatever. But regardless, I'm just trying to get there. So give me a little bit more time if you want to continue on, or unless others want to jump in.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought I was just going to be giving you a report of what we've done and what we were planning to do tonight, but we were able to get a draft together. So obviously you have not had a chance to read it and dissect that. So
putting
please,
pressure on everybody.
yeah, so please don't feel any pressure on that. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Someone else?
I mean, you've had 2 hours here. Like,
You're doing your real job, Peter. Okay. Anything else on this section? And then I have one last piece, and then happy to go ahead,
So
Peter.
since we're staying on here,
Yeah.
I look at that first one and knowing how much effort we put into play in early stages of K and 1, bridging UPK to kindergarten, then especially as we emphasize more and more of this, and kudos to former board members who really pushed as much as they could with play and not quite feeling like we ever quite got where we hoped to get, but not wanting them to go. We have this love of learning happens through play, and then do they lose some of that learning if we don't continue on with what's well researched and intent? That's what comes to my mind as I read this. I think it's a great mission and opening and recognizing play. There's great research of play all the way through high school, right? In terms of how people learn, not just kids.
Right.
And how do we keep a love for education? Play may change. It may not be sending them out to a playground necessarily, but how do we apply this throughout our educational careers, throughout our lives?
Yeah, I think, oh, I'm sorry, do you mind, Erica? We had a keynote today as part of Teach Fest, who talked about how there's a dip of curiosity that happens. So up until age 6, kids are so curious. And if you have little ones, I do. I have a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old, and gosh, the amount of times I hear them ask me why about the most random things that I've never thought about. But that starts to decline to the point where kids don't ask any questions. And so how do we keep that alive?
And the board has already invested in Spark Labs.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
as we talk about the middle school master schedule, how are we going to build in opportunities for that intuitive curiosity to continue to be developed? So, good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, that keynote speaker shared a list of
Yeah.
the top qualities that employers are
Right.
looking for, and I know I have a screenshot of it too. And a lot of it was creativity and problem solving and resilience. And as he was explaining those, it really paralleled what we heard from the Spark Lab people in one of our other workshops about the skills, letting people fail. He talked a whole section about letting kids experience failure in a positive way, and that was exactly what the Spark Lab had presented on when they came to a former board workshop. So it was really neat to see how our district is already working towards some of those things he was talking about.
Yeah, a couple of those were reasoning, resilience, stress tolerance, leadership, innovation, analytical thinking, and active learning. And you can start that in pre-K. Right?
That's cool.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Erica.
No, I was going to actually kind of say similar thing where there's connections. When you were talking about the day 187 and time to take to get things, comfortable in the classroom for students. I know when I taught, it felt like it took forever, but if you take a lot of time in the beginning to get things, routines down, relationships established, it's going to save you so much time when you actually move forward. So I would actually, no, I was going to just give a little comment. My youngest son has a friend who has 4 younger siblings, and one of them just went through UPK last year in the district. And so the mom is actually a counselor, so we were talking, and she was just loving the experience that her child had at Generations. Wanted to make sure that there would be more opportunities for her next 3 children coming up, but she reflected that when she first went through the UPK orientation and her daughter started with it, she was shocked how much play was put in place. When you think about like maybe a traditional daycare or daycare center, a lot of times they dive right into reading, which is important and obviously, but she was surprised that they took a lot of time in the beginning to really do play and just working together. And she said at first she was a little nervous, but by the end it was just, she was amazed at how much her child had grown. And she was like, they sent home this and that, and she's like, it was worth it. Which I think sometimes as a parent it's hard because you want, you like to see things checked off, I suppose, and so your child is ready. But I think establishing and working on getting along with others is definitely huge.
And that's something that came up today in our conversation with the statement, play is the work of children. And I think a lot of people think like, oh, you throw a ball pit and then you're like done. But no, teachers are circling in a text that relates to that ball pit, and then you're working in numeracy skills with how many balls can you fit in this jug, but this jug's smaller, so how do you transfer that? And all those content rich connections and those social emotional skills, like play is, your kids come home quite spent after a really enriching play program.
I love that vision statement so much. To cultivate a love of learning, like that could be our vision. I feel like that could be our vision statement for the whole district. Seriously, I just love that.
There's still time.
And the really
No, we're not gonna.
The really
I
neat
gotta
thing
give
about
Peter time to read it.
the
No, but
neat thing about
fostering.
that too is it came straight from the
thought exchange.
thought exchange.
Yeah, I love that so much.
Thank you on behalf of the group that worked on that and the families that contributed that. Thank
Well,
you for that.
this is your statement. This is a statement that I truly believe reflects the spirit of what the board is always trying to accomplish. It can be overlaid into what we try to accomplish each year. And we talk about the value of our schools, and I appreciate Lisa and Dr. T and Kelly, of course, making sure that we're within the parameters of what the state expects and, you know, what we do from a public school. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Great start.
All right, one more thing from Dr. T. I have one more thing to share. The culture of
Are
coaching.
you talking in the third person?
I am. I will not do that again. Dr. T will, no, I'm just kidding. Okay, so culture of coaching. I'm really excited to have this on paper. I will say to you that this has existed in some form, maybe not in this robust of a form for the last year and a half, but, and before that, but in this robust of a form and in this level of detail, just so we can be completely transparent about us as a learning organization. You'll see the language at the top is taken directly from our strategic plan. We need to invest in our staff and we need to be responsive. We need to support our educators. That includes our admin. It includes myself and Brett, right? Doug and Matt. And we need to make sure that we are learning best practices for our students so that we can see them be as successful as possible and future ready. So what you'll see here are the 6 intentional ways that we are learning and growing together as an organization over this year. You'll see who's involved, the nature of that, if it's mandatory, voluntary, how it happens, when it happens, how long it takes, and what we do with that information. And so you'll see along the top, we have learning walks, and those will happen twice a year, the beginning of the year, end of the year, and we work with a company called Better Lesson who does coaching with us as well. And this is really about norming our admin language on what we see in classrooms and are able to give feedback to. It's about really norming our understanding of best practice in teaching in the rooms. And we'll be looking for, surprise, surprise, behavior management, discourse, and learning targets, because those are the things we're focusing on, so those are the things we're going to look for, right? And so these are about norming, so that'll happen. This is voluntary for the teachers. We choose, we ask for volunteers, we go to those rooms, we do it together. We use a lot of time working on a rubric with ourselves. We do a lot of time in discussing the rubric, and that goes nowhere. It's not evaluative at all for the teachers. It is really for the admin. It's professional learning for the admin team. So that's learning walks.
Can I ask?
Yeah, please.
Go ahead.
I can't tell.
No, you go ahead.
Well, I was just wondering, so you say who's it there for?
Yep.
I'm just trying, excuse some thinking out loud here.
Yeah, please.
Could others join in, other teachers who want to go
That was my
visit another
question.
classroom and observe what they're doing where they feel like they might have a strength that they can
Yeah,
learn from?
so we did this spring of last year, and we did have some teachers participate in that. It really is up to the comfort level of the culture in your building, honestly. And also knowing that it goes nowhere and it's not evaluative, and it's okay for us to see each other teach. We learn a lot from seeing each other teach, and that is something I'd love, that culture is something we'd love to continue to grow.
Is it the same?
Anything else on that one?
Coaching, is that what I was being?
Well, that's okay. It's both. It's both. Lots of districts do it in a way where it's in like an open classroom or a pineapple classroom. You're welcome to join. Pineapple means welcome.
So I had a bunch of practitioners come up to me today at Teach Fest, which I'll talk about later, and they were so excited about Carl Hooker. He's the presenter from Texas, and he did an amazing job of engaging. And teachers were coming up to me saying, we want to continue this learning. We want to have this ongoing, and it's directly related to the ideas of what we're trying to strive for in our strategic plan too. Because again, we know quality teaching engages our students, which impacts student learning. So if we can build upon what we did today with Mr. Hooker, we can definitely add this to the walkthroughs.
Okay, so that's one. Can you roll back up, Brett? The other thing that we're going to be intentional about this year is walkthroughs, and that's really with the district leadership and myself alongside of our admin. After we've normed ourselves with the learning walks, I feel really, really strongly that as we're making decisions moving forward for the instructional practices and curricular practices of the district, that we need to be in classrooms so we can see what's happening in classrooms. And that's not something we've done intentionally. It's something we've done, but not at an intentional level. And so this will, again, be no more than 14 minutes. We will visit, the goal is to visit every single teacher in Fairport at least once. And so we'll go in teams or triplets, and we'll make a schedule. It's to just observe growth over the things we said we were going to focus on, right? You don't want to go see something once. You want to see something over time in multiple settings, at different periods, all of that. And then it really is going to be used to inform our next steps for professional learning as a district. What happens is teachers will get an email, right, Bennett? And it's going to say, here's a medal, something wonderful that we saw, and here's a mission. Have you thought about, could you consider? And then nothing. It does not go in an evaluation. It's not part of APPR. It is really for the growth of an organization. So that's
And
another
Tanya-
piece. Yeah, go ahead.
Just, so this would be administrators, yes. And they'll be clear that it's not
Oh, yeah.
used as a punitive situation.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yep. Yeah. I mean, we can't.
I know, I just
Yeah.
want to make sure.
And there's laws, there's rules
I
about
know.
observations and anything. As long as we're not there for more than 15 minutes, we can't use it for anything, really.
And we know that
Nor do
this
we
is
want
the
to.
best type of learning too, because it's non-evaluative. It's information, it's growth producing. I like what Dr. T said. There may be a haunting question. Can you consider, or what do you think about? And those conversations that occur in the classroom, on your way out the door, when you're doing your rounds, those are, that's where real growth
I just
opportunities can occur.
think about that power of the network as well. So if you guys are seeing all of these different classes, so like what happened at Teach Fest today, where people were teaching each other, being able to say, wow, I saw so-and-so doing this amazingly, maybe you could reach out to, or anything along those lines, and just building that continued, we have so many amazing people doing amazing things.
Yeah.
You guys will know so much.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's where the magic happens, when teacher to teacher happens, right?
And again, ultimately, that excitement will resonate in the classroom, which will impact all kids. This was good for every single child. Each child, all children will benefit. We had kindergarten teachers there. We had high school, senior English teachers there, and it was exciting to be a part of it.
And then there's the observation cycle, and this has not changed. This is something that's agreed upon and negotiated with the FEA and APPR. So that's not something I'm going to spend a ton of time on. It happens. That's what we do as a professional organization. But if you
1C and 2D
Yep,
and
yep.
3B. Yep.
So we're focused on specifically, if you know Danielson et al., 1C, 2D, and 3B, but those are aligned to the things we're focused on as a district. So again, we're trying to tie everything together and find that common thread of professional growth this year. And if you go back up again, we're almost through the things. So we have better lesson coaching. It'll be our second year with this. This is voluntary. We will pair our coaches with admin. So there's specific one-on-one coaching for each admin. And that is with an experienced admin that will come in and coach with them on a topic related to giving feedback on Discourse, learning targets. Do you see a theme here? And then they also get paired with 20 teachers who volunteer to do that as well. And so we're really excited about that. We did it last year, and we offered that to our lead teachers and to our admin. And this year we'll do the same. We'll open it up to other teachers that want to participate in this coaching. And it can happen throughout the day. It can happen after school. And it's a one-on-one coaching cycle. They do, just to note, they do record the session. It's a virtual session. They record it, but it doesn't go anywhere without that person's permission. And so they have evidence of all the coaching cycles that happened, for accountability, for feedback for their own coaches. And then if the person in that video, so if Brett gets videotaped and says, yeah, I don't mind if you share that, then I can see, they'll show it to me, and then we can decide what to do with that video. And sometimes we use those in our learning organization. And then actually some of our participants presented at Ren about this coaching cycle that they had. So we had George, Kelly, and why am I forgetting her name? She just had surgery. Jess Tennant came and did a panel discussion about their coaching experience. So that was great.
Is it a local group?
No, it's an online presence. So, but they have educators from across the country that have very diverse experiences.
Yeah.
They're very, very focused on culturally responsive practices, and we've had a really great and responsive relationship. They also build their coaching, and that's the same people we do the learning walks with. So that's
Right.
all tied together. But they build their coaching cycles based on what we need and want. They build their learning walks on our focuses, so it's really personalized to us.
And that last year was the first year?
Yeah.
How many-ish? I know I don't mean to put you on the
Last
spot
year?
with ish
35 people participated last year.
administrators and,
And
staff.
teach- yep.
Teacher leaders, right?
And so you'll see that too, right? Like there's professional learning for everybody. We're all need to grow and do and get better.
It was really cool at Ren. I was sitting at the table, and the representative for Better Lesson Coaching didn't know I was from Fairport, and so I'm just chatting with her, and she shared, how excited she was to be there. She was going to help out with the panel, and she was just bragging about teachers that she gets to work with in Fairport, having no idea who she's sitting there with, and it was just, it was really cool. It was that like proud board member. You're like, yeah, we do have the best.
We do. And then there's peer-to-peer coaching, and this has been going on for a long time. I just wanted to list it as we were, showing all the ways that we're growing and learning together. But this can happen with lead teachers paired with teachers, with BOCES consultants paired with teachers, really anybody. And this is a choice again.
Yeah, you have some also your like the Jess Joneses and your coaches, Kristen Irwin.
That's right.
Your lead teachers who
Yeah.
are designated special assignment to go and model.
Yep, absolutely. And then we've been working with those folks like Jess Jones, Kristen Irwin, and Andrea Costanza on how to coach, how to do that coaching. And they get that from their Better Lesson coach on how to be a really great coach and give feedback, because that's not something that's natural for some teachers to do. So that's been great. We have a really wonderful partnership with some BOCES consultants as well that work right now. I can think we've got a group that's working with our math teachers in secondary. And then we also have some folks that come from our curriculum. So Wit and Wisdom and Expressions have coaches also that will come along and work alongside. And then one more, last one. And this one really is focused on administrators. It's through the University of Rochester. And this is a recommendation made by the superintendent for some of our admin. And we typically, Brett, focus on newer admin.
Yeah, we have assistant principals that are new. We have directors that are new. They're given the opportunity to have sort of like a
Critical
life
friend.
coach, someone who talks about leadership, talks about balance, talks about the what if and I wonder scenarios, a confidential partner. Just to round it off, it could be instructional, but it's more about sharpening your saw and those leadership principles that transfer in multiple different settings.
And Brett and I have coaches. Yeah. So we all learn together and we all grow together. So I'm just excited about that piece. But I'll take any questions, comments. Peter's ready.
Hit it,
I'm
Peter.
ready,
You gotta
Peter.
hit it again.
Of all these things, for what? I think I'd get good at that. For what do people get PD credit for, for their steps and other
Oh,
things? Is
that's a
like the
great
learning-
question.
Professional learning pass, do they get credit for that?
No, professional learning pass is part of the contract. Most of these things happen in the day. So there isn't necessarily any credit that happens. There's professional learning that happens on top of this that people choose to
So
participate in.
that's self-guided. To get
That's
that
right.
credit is more self-guided
That's right.
areas that they select.
Yep. And these are district provided during a school day, work day.
So with the coaching, does that mean like does the teacher or administrator have time? They're given like time to do that? during
Yeah,
the
so
school
I'll
day?
give an example for the peer-to-peer coaching. So thank you to the Board of Education for approving the 1.0 release of Teresa Santa to be a teacher on assignment for special education.
Yeah.
She will be going in and working alongside our special ed teachers during the day because she has release time to do that. That's actually in all of our lead teacher descriptions. And the release time varies, so it depends on how much availability there is to do that. But our lead teachers in the 4 elementary schools, along with Teresa Santa, have full release to be able to do that, and then it varies in other positions as well.
So these are all in their, it's the second year. It's their, I don't want to say in their infancy, but we're developing and we're always trying to get feedback and make it more appealing so more people can participate. I really appreciate, it started out as an idea and then we were able to put together some really good programs, if you will, to address a staff interest. But questions about where does this fit into professional learning plans, credit. Those could be possible conversations in the future. Because I think that's where you're
Yeah.
thinking.
Yep. Well, right, and should it be, can it be? I don't know. Right, those are
Right,
things
those
that
are
we
things
can
that- yeah.
work through. But that's getting a foundation of where we are right now. To quote you,
Go for it.
no,
Quote me.
you started out,
I'm
I loved
scary.
it, right? We're a learning organization, not direct quote, including students and our staff, right?
Yeah.
Our staff across the board. Heavy emphasis on the teachers, which makes a great sense. But the other big, small group of employees who have a big impact, especially for not an insignificant portion of our population, are the paras,
Yeah.
right? For special ed
Absolutely.
and other students. Seem to be a little light on that group still, right? An area where it seems like we need to focus still.
Yeah, that's
and
fair feedback for sure. I will,
every-
yeah.
I'm just thinking every year in September when we're going through the budget, that PD is one of the number one things asked for by our bargaining units, right? Is
Yeah.
how can we get more? That there's two sides to that, obviously, and providing it. So that's, I'm just thinking of the para side, who's the other group that really asked for it. Can you make us part of it?
Our
Give us
secretaries ask
access to
for it too.
Yep, no,
So-
again, all the bargaining
Yep.
units, so it's one of the number one things asked for.
Yep.
I love that we are really getting very systematic. We are getting very intentional about offering PD. So we're making great progress. I think, wanting to make sure we don't leave anybody else behind as we develop such great resources.
For example,
great.
And again, I think you're right on the money. We need to continue to develop these ideas and embed them in all of our units, individuals who interact with students and the public as well. I was really proud of the fact of the number of paraprofessionals that were at Teach Fest today.
yeah.
That was exciting to see them. They were able to be a part of that energy. So that's year 2. Teach Fest, and we're looking forward to year 3. Maybe we can get them to help teach some classes too, which would be, which is the whole idea, is to spread and build the capacity.
I wish Kevin were here right now to share with you, but our paraprofessionals turn out in droves for anything we offer. That is for credit, and they really represent. And I still take your feedback because this is something that we're building in the workday for folks, and I think that we could reflect on that and see what other opportunities there are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
seems like it could apply, right?
Yeah,
That it's
absolutely.
already there, so you don't have to reinvent any wheel.
Yep.
It's now just expand the wheel.
Perfect. Love it. Yeah.
Thanks.
Anything
I'm
else?
done for the moment.
All right. That's it for me, Superintendent Provenzano.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Comprehensive report. And again, I hope to hear some reflections, maybe if they come to you in the business meeting. It'd be cool to put those ideas together. I know, but I've seen this. I've seen this next one. It's gonna be a home run.
So are we skipping C, meaning what we saw
We just did that. You
was part of that, right?
Yeah.
I assumed. I just wanted to double check.
Yep.
We don't have to vision it and finalize it because you guys, or what's
We could. Let's go.
Over
Come on. We got.
to-
So I would ask this time for Mr. Stevens, and I think we have some members, Brian and Kevin, to give us a progress update on 2019 capital improvement project, the summer work that's been going on, and the whole point of this conversation. And you might see some redundancy in the later presentation, but we really want to get you to ask some questions like school starting. But if you go to Northside and Dudley, and if you go to Fairport High School in certain areas, especially JP as well, you might say, what is going on here? Will we open in time? Right? And I'm going to ask the team to come forward, including Aaron Smith, to have a conversation. This will give you a chance to, this is your Wegmans information. So when you're in Wegmans over the Labor Day weekend, you'll be well prepared. Here we go. Mr. Stevens? Right here? Is that mic on, guys? Thanks. I'm sorry, guys. I was talking too much. Surprise.
So again, we have Brian Belair, Kevin Arlotta with campus here, and Aaron Smith as well. Brian's gonna, kind of run through some updates of some of the big pieces we have taking place this summer. Talk about, overall kind of timelines in terms of what's going to be ready at start of school, what things we still anticipate as scheduled to be pushing into the school year, and then we talk about Brian will jump into this with a lot of the flooring and finishes work that's taking place here at the high school, taking place really throughout next school year. So with that, I'll let Brian just jump into the first slide here.
Can you hear me now? Yes, school will open, and I will preface the whole presentation by these pictures were taken on Friday, and even if you walk in today versus what's here, you're going to see casework, you're going to see updates. So as we go through the progression of the slide, we're going to talk about what's happening, where we'll be at the first day of school, and any work that will continue, because we will be doing work as we progress through the school year, but 100% we will be fully functional for students to come back in September. So Kevin, you want to start with the high school?
Yep. So starting off in the gymnasium here at the high school, again, the major scopes of work in this space were painting the entire space, walls, ceiling, structural steel, and then the floor finishing and acoustical panels up in the ceiling. Our painter has just wrapped up painting of the entire space. That top photo there, he's removed all the plastic. We have our floor finisher coming in tomorrow to begin his work. We sat down as a group with Fritz, Aaron, and Bob back in April looking at this after we got durations from contractors, and there just merely was not enough time in the summer to do the painting and the floor finishing. So we came up with a plan that we would take over the gym at the end of the school year, because that worked better for the district, and we'd be turning that over in the first week in October, which we are on pace for that. So really the major scope of work left in here is the floor refinishing. You can see the rendering there of what the floor will look like once we're wrapped up.
And I understand that Athletic Director Fritz Killian, who oversees PE, has been working with Brian and team, working with the staff who will be interacting with kids in these spaces. They're going to have alternative assignments, alternative spaces and places. Luckily, it's still summer-ish, right?
Yeah.
That time?
About 9 more days, yeah. So moving on to the terrazzo scope here in the high school, this work will be pushing in through the school year. Again, it is the second and first floor down here. These highlighted areas depict where we'll be installing that flooring, but we'll be taking advantage of the district breaks, Christmas, February, April, and our target completion for this is spring and summer of 2014 or 2024.
So is it safe to travel on these floors? Is it going to be sticky elements? Is it going to be slippery? I mean, what's going to...
Nope, it's actually the bottom photo right there is the full terrazzo installation minus the grinding there. 100% safe to walk on, it's easily cleanable. Most of the first floor is just the bare concrete, which we've cleaned up, which can be swept throughout the school year. Again, we'll be hitting those on breaks, making sure that we get cleaned up along with Aaron and his team to make sure that it's ready for kids to come back after each one of those breaks.
All right, 1B. So we have some pretty common themes here. As we go through 1B, we are going to start with Joanna Perrin, who has the most work. There's an abundance work over there currently. But some of the common themes with all the offices are that millwork's delivered. People are going to have a place to sit when they come in. We've started to coordinate with the admins and the principals to start coming in on the 30th of August, so next week, as they start to transition in. We're even moving in some of the principals a bit earlier in the back offices so they can get situated. One of the other main pieces to the project, 1B overall, was the secure entrances. Those are going to be fully functional. So when visitors come, they're going to do as it was intended. So they're going to be able to come to the window, get security clearance, and then get buzzed through. So over at JP, some of the highlights, the main office. Again, if you look at the picture on the top left, that is a moisture barrier. That's in preparation for the carpet. There currently is now desks in millwork being installed in those offices, as well as the other offices. This bottom picture is a picture of the gang boys bathroom. That's being grouted, I believe, yesterday, so that's going to be fully functional. We took that in May of last year. On the top right, we've been working with Michelle and the food service team to get that kitchen up and running. So it's been cleaned last weekend, and they're getting ready to take their first food delivery next week.
Those used to be
So
metal and rusty ceilings, I believe.
Yes, that metal ugly ceiling
It
is
wasn't
now
ugly,
gone.
It had a lot of character, but
They were glad to see it go. And we also got them a couple new ceiling fans, which they were glad
Yeah, that's what
for.
I was gonna add, that in the cafeteria, right, this was not a kitchen cafeteria innovation, it's more,
Correct.
some of the ceiling work associated with our boiler conversion work and those different pieces that we did some work in there related to the ceiling lighting and some fans. Thanks.
All right, continuing on with Joanna Perrin. If you remember last year, we did a total of about 30 extra rooms, and that was abatement of ceiling. And some select rooms, we actually had flooring. So those rooms are actually done and getting ready to get turned over. Aaron's team is actually going through and cleaning those up. That consisted of new ceilings, new lights, and again, new flooring in some instances.
so I'm going to ask Mr. Stevens to jump in, and I think it's an important point, and I don't mean to sound glib or sarcastic, et cetera, but, you know, it was amazing how much more we were able to do there. There was asbestos work that we ran into, but then we were
Yep.
able to, and Aaron, please jump in as well, because we talked about it. There were floors that we were able to get to. So some of these were tired floors that were originally in place. We were able to pull those floors up, and many people have said, and this is some of the feedback that we got on the July 26th meeting, I think, Lindsay, it was, where, you know, we stop things and we go halfway, or we don't go 100 yards, right? And I appreciate that, because why don't you, I said to somebody, and they appropriately corrected me, and they're going to do this right now, okay? Right? Why don't we just connect the dots and finish it? Because look at that, we still have that tired casework. And I want to give Matt and or Aaron an opportunity to speak to why we just can't finish it. It's pretty simple and fundamental, but they do a better job than me.
So I'll start a little bit about talking about some of the abatement that took place in the building. So with the boiler conversion taking place over at Joanna Perrin, up in the roof area between hallways and classrooms, there was some areas that required some asbestos abatement. So in doing that work, we were able to take care of that. And then in phase 1A, with the finishes project, overall, we were able to transition